So today I released an old video from the main channel that had been sitting in private purgatory for well over a year at this point, and it was a video I made. It was a video I made for making mac and cheese in a kettle, and I released it because I found a post that once again sparked one of the stupidest debates from across the pond, or that happens between the pond. I'll have to look at that later. Later, can I get off this, please? Thank you. Um, which is the incredibly stupid, but also aptly named, or at least I aptly named it, the American kettle argument. Which you can probably guess what it is if you're either British or American. It's a whole debate around why Americans don't use kettles, and there's a lot of real reasons behind that. That's one of the videos I already now have a plan on making, and I released that so that I can show it properly. But the kettle is not. There's a lot of reasons why the kettle doesn't get used. I just don't think most people remember what that is. Where am I looking for? Where is it? Oh, there it is. And so I want to make an entire video that is like going through that stuff and the reasons why people don't use the kettle here in America, because there are reasons. There we go. Got that playlist going, and it's just one of the stupidest arguments, and it just has to do with what people do or don't do anymore. Where'd it go? Something is new. They changed something. This is not where the international guide's supposed to be. Something got removed. Oh, what the? Oh, the pass is gone, I think. Because it's the end of the version. That's annoying. I never noticed that. I'm gonna just continue farming this, I guess. Yeah, I think one of the stupidest reasons is that. Well, let's put it this way. First of all, the first thing I got to say is that Americans do have kettles. Not every American is kettleless. There are plenty of Americans that have kettles. One main example I like to give, of course, being my own fucking grandparents. My grandparents on at least my dad's side. I don't remember if my mom's side has them or not, but I feel like they do. I just can't remember if they do or not. But I know because my grandparents on my dad's side literally have a red kettle that just sits on their stove all the time. Uh, and but yeah, we do have kettles. Not to mention electric kettles are pretty widespread here in America. We do actually have quite a few people who use them, including myself, at multiple times in my life. I wish I could kill this thing. So the whole having not kettle argument is already just immediately out the water because it's just blatantly not true. But what I think is more notable is the fact that probably the main reason why there's just not a widespread use of kettles is that we just don't. There's not a full real reason to get one. First example, of course, is the fact that should use ult first, but whatever. Is that let's say you want to make tea. If you don't already have a kettle and you want to make tea, why bother getting a kettle specifically to do that? It just doesn't make much sense. the thing, it has to have other uses for it to be useful, and there are other things a kettle can do. I mentioned, I previously did a video at some point on using a kettle to make mac and cheese, like a box of mac and cheese. However, the only reason I did that was because because I was in college. I couldn't have a pot. There was no stove. I had to use the electric kettle. There was literally no other way for me to make um, there was no other way for me to make mac and cheese, and I really wanted to make some. So that is a time where using it is good. But let's say you want to make mac and cheese here for like cooking. The two examples I got was cooking and cleaning, as some of the other things you can do with the kettle to boil water for. First of all, for cooking, if you're cooking boiling, if you're using boiling water for something, um, you're probably going to be doing it in a pot anyway. Most kettles are not good enough for making stuff like ramen. And when I say making ramen, I mean like ramen packets, like the cubes. Those just using. I've tried this before. I did it back then in college, which is when I tried to use boiling water from the kettle to make the ramen. It just doesn't work. It does work for ramen cups because of how they make them, but it does not work for other forms of ramen. Not nearly as well. Can you not die yet, please? Thank you. The other thing was cleaning, which is when are you going to need when are you going to need fully boiling water to clean, and that's the first thing, and the second thing is the water from the hot water like thing on from the sink is far more than hot enough. So like, there's no reason to get a kettle just for that when the hot water from the sink can already scald my hand. So, especially since we got a new boiler, it took us like nearly 20 years to actually get a new boiler for this house. It lasted way longer than it should have, but when we did finally replace it, our water got way hotter, and yeah, so now we have actually hot water. Um, but what's this? Ah, okay. All right, it's Monday. Sure. What else was it saying? Oh yeah, the big reason why we don't have this is what happens when I don't have a script to like read off of. The main thing when it comes to why we didn't use it really that much in the first place, like kettles to like make tea and stuff, is because, for example, I live in the American South. A kettle does not work for American Southern tea. It doesn't. It does not. If you try to use a kettle to make typical tea in the southern U.S., it's going to take you like an hour to finish it. Kettles are specifically designed so that you boil the water and then you put it directly into a cup. You don't do that here. It's not just a portions thing, it's how we actually make it. So what you do is you grab a giant ass pot, you fill it with water, you throw like 8 tea bags in, you boil that water until, it's tea, and then while making sure the tea bags stay in the water using like a ladle, you dump it into a pitcher that has a bunch of sugar in it, and then you do that again into the same pitcher. You fill it with like a shit ton of sweet tea, and then you throw it in the fridge until it's cold. We don't drink it hot. We only use the hot water to, actually make the tea. Once the tea is done, and it's like you just throw it in the fridge. And if you were to try to use a kettle, not only are kettles, generally speaking, most kettles are way too small. You would have to do like 6 or so like runs to get all the tea you needed. Not to mention the fact that the kettle would be too slow to dump the water in. And when I say pitcher, I mean like an actual pitcher, like a full size pitcher. Like I'm talking a pitcher that you wouldn't be able to fit in in a lot of mini fridges that have like actual freezers on them. Like I'm talking like foot and a half tall or something. I don't know the exact size. I don't like the imperial system, and I don't think I've ever measured it with the metric ruler. But um, like it's a full sized massive pitcher. You know, one that would take two full things with a big pot. And when I say big pot, I mean like big pot. Like one that you would cook like 2 pounds of noodles in, which is a big pot, by the way. And it would like fill the and it would like be up like halfway of the pot. That's how big of a pot you need. Like sweet tea is just so different. And on top of that, there's also just the one thing that has to be said. It doesn't matter how you make your tea. It doesn't. You can make your tea with a kettle, or you could do it with a pot, or you can do it in a fucking microwave. It doesn't matter. They all heat the water. It doesn't make a difference. It's whatever is most fitting for the person making it. Some people like to make coffee in a coffee machine. I use just cappuccino mix directly into cold water and milk with some extra sugar, and now I have coffee that's cold because I like drinking my coffee and tea cold. Like I like if a drink is warm, I don't like it as much. I prefer drinks are always best cold. It all has to do. It all has to go down to preference. And here in the U.S., using a kettle is just not a super common method to do it. And everything else you can use a kettle for, we already have other stuff for that. People keep saying ramen. Make ramen in a pot. There's no point in grabbing another thing that does basically the same thing, but we aren't really like used to using. Plus, the pot can do plenty of things that the kettle cannot. There really isn't a full reason to get uh, a kettle a over just having a pot by it. Like I literally cannot find any reason to have a kettle specifically, except for very specific scenarios, like when I was in college and we couldn't have anything else. So like, what I had to use one. There was no choice. Anyways, that's enough rambling for now.